This weekend, the marathon comes to Knoxville. I spoke with students about how they're preparing for such a steep course.
So this was totally different from anything that had ever happened in the 51 years I had lived here.
It has been 6 months since Hurricane Helene blew through East Tennessee. We take a look at the efforts to rebuild towns across the region. Over the past 3 years, only 4 people have run for student body president, and this year 3 people ran for president and the same running for vice president. We'll have more in just a moment. Welcome to UT Today. I'm Bella Fricks. Student government kicked off their candidate debate this past Monday. Each presidential and vice presidential candidate had the chance to speak about what they would do here at UT with that position. Now, this year has marked also a new beginning in SGA because this is the first time each candidate has had to run separately. The current student body president told us more about this rule change.
Kind of candidate an opportunity to express why they want to run, express why each student should vote for them, but also what policies they actually believe in independently, to really broaden their perspective on student issues, but those opportunities and resources for students.
Voting has already closed and the ballots have been counted. Chase Darwin has won student body president, and with Ella Blair winning vice president. With over 5,000 votes, this year was the largest voter turnout since 2020. Crew 9 finally touched down here on Earth last month after spending over half a year in space. Now, one of the astronauts, Butch Wilmore, who happens to be a UT grad, addresses what went wrong at one of his first press conferences since his return.
There were some issues, of course, that happened with Starliner. There were some issues, of course, that happened that prevented us from returning on Starliner. And I'll start with me. There were questions that I, as the commander of the spacecraft, that I should have asked, and I did not.
Wilmore and the rest of his crew have publicly stated that they don't blame any specific person and said they think the responsibility falls on the shoulders of everyone involved in the mission, including themselves. It has been 6 months since Newport, Tennessee was hit with a devastating flood following Hurricane Helene. Our Nick McNeese showcases the recovery efforts from his hometown.
Just 6 months ago, my hometown Newport, Tennessee was hit with devastating floods from the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, unlike anything our town had ever seen before. The recovery from these floods is personal to me. For my grandma, Donna Martin, this could have been fatal.
And it sounds like an ocean in the backyard.
The water was rising and was minutes from trapping her inside of her own home.
He called and he said, "I'm coming after you. I'm coming to get you." And he said, "Grab you some clothes, do whatever." I grabbed my door key and my cell phone and I'm out the door.
That day, she could have never guessed that the entire foundation and walls inside of her home were ruined, and that 6 months later, she would still not be back in her home.
And I thought, well, even when I went with him, I'm thinking, this will be gone and I'll be back in a couple of hours.
Everything she owned was destroyed, but support from people all across the country has been overwhelming to her.
It's been a blessing and an eye-opening experience, but a heartwarming decision, choice too, because there've been a lot of people that I've never laid eyes on, probably never meet. That's really been a blessing to me and helped out.
Many families all across Cott County are just like mine. They are tired, but they're working very hard to try and rebuild what they had. Cott County Mayor Rob Mathis has been working tirelessly to try and help his county recover from these floods. He says the community spirit in Newport has been eye-opening.
I'm so proud and thankful for how our county, the whole community has responded.
He says there are many behind-the-scenes challenges that people are not aware of.
Nobody goes through these disasters on a regular basis, so when you're working with the state and federal levels, then you're starting a game and you're playing it as you learn the rules, so to speak.
He says the relationships that the city has built with nonprofits, other counties, and the federal government prior to the floods were vital in making sure relief began quickly.
We have built and strengthened those relationships for 2 years so that when the crisis hit, we didn't have to build relationships. That when a crisis hits, that's not when you build relationships, that's when you lean on them.
The road to recovery is still long for my family and many others in Cott County, but the end goal gets closer every single day. From Newport, Tennessee, Nick McNeese, Fall News.
Cott County is still working on receiving more funding from the federal government to help with the rebuilding process, with the interstate leading to Charlotte being a top priority. Lots of progress has been made, but there is still much work to be done. 114 human trafficking cases were reported in 2023. Tennessee is taking an extra step to decrease these numbers. It's called the Ink of Hope Act, and it was proposed by Republican lawmakers. The act would focus on training tattoo artists to recognize signs of human trafficking. Not only does it teach artists how to identify signs, but it also teaches them how to respond to a person involved in trafficking. TVC now spoke with Senator Becky Massey, who introduced the bill. She says that traffickers frequently visit tattoo shops. East Tennessee is making a difference in the fight against substance abuse. Our Kyla Berry continues to tell the stories of people who were affected by substance misuse in East Tennessee.
Connected to something bigger than myself.
For Brandon Stiles, his connection is serving others.
I advocate and I do service work, and I help find the resources needed to the people that are the most vulnerable population that we have today.
Through his experiences, he is showing people there is hope.
Just because this is where you're at, that you don't have to stay there, because I've been there and I'm no longer there.
Brandon's story didn't start as a regional overdose specialist. In 2018, right behind me is where he called home.
So that carried on for a couple of years until I became homeless. I would stay with different friends back and forth.
One of these friends is his sister, Bella Wittenberg.
I've been here through every step. I've never left his side, no matter how hard it got. I've just been here.
His journey with addiction started at a young age.
Raised by people that were in the streets. They were the only ones that showed me that they cared at that time, and they showed me how to not starve, basically, right?
Now he's turned that addiction into a passion for serving others.
I visualize being the individual that is of service, that is creating opportunities, being a pillar in the community that can advocate for change where it's needed.
Brandon has been serving the community at Metro Drug Coalition for over 2 years, and he has been free of substance misuse for nearly 4. Brandon told us he is on the board of directors for NAMI, the National Allegiance of Mental Illness, and serves as the chair for their outreach committee. Our reporters were in Birmingham for the Lady Vols Sweet 16 game. Take a look.
Hey guys, Luke Lamry here alongside Holland Hines and Toby Fagan behind the camera. We have just arrived at Legacy Arena in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah, we've done what we can to prepare for that. We don't really look back. We are hopeful that we're a new team and it's a different game. They're playing really well right now too, and anything can happen in March, but we just need to make sure that we are playing like we have our last 2 games.
Well, you got to talk to Caldwell. I talked to Sarah Puckett.
I've given my all for this university and for this program, and being a Lady Vol, I've taken pride in that.
Spencer tipped by Hollingshed. Spencer got it. Now Spencer in the lane. Turnaround jumper, the free throw line. Got it and a foul. How did she? Now Spencer's going to drive in the lane. Puts up a scoop shot. Got it and one.
Live at the half in Legacy Arena, I'm Luke Lamry alongside Toby Fagan. Score at the half, Toby, 34-30. Longhorns up on the Lady Vols right now in a half that's been highlighted by a 13-point run from the Longhorns. But I will say, the Lady Vols, they've been physical. They've been boxing out, and they've been getting those rebounds, Toby, just like Kim Caldwell said yesterday, being physical without those fouls.
Up and off balance shot, gets the roll for 2. And here for Tennessee. Whitehorn with the top of the key. Whitehorn drives right side lane, off the glass and good.
Okay, well, how did you feel about the Lady Vols' performance today?
Not happy. I felt like they could have done a lot better. They missed a lot of easy shots, layups, free throws, turnovers. They weren't the Lady Vols I saw last week.
How did you feel about the Lady Vols' performance today?
I think it was good. I know it wasn't enough, but, they have been impressive all year. I mean, to see what the coach has done with traditional, power institution and program has been phenomenal. So, good show today, I think.
Final score here in Birmingham, 59-67, and the Lady Vols take a tough loss to the Longhorns. And one look at the stat sheet tells you all you need to know. The Lady Vols shooting less than 20% from beyond the arc, 4 for 10 from the free throw line, and it proved to be their demise. They had to foul in the final minutes, down 5, and it proved to send Texas to the Elite 8. sends the Lady Vols home, and it'll send TVC home as well. I'm Luke Lamry in front of the camera. Holland Hines and Toby Fagan back there as well. We'll see you back in Knoxville next time right here on TVC.
It brings in $3 million to Knoxville every year. The Covenant Health Knoxville Marathon steps off this Sunday morning, and students have been training for months.
While a marathon is no easy task in itself, the Knoxville course may make it more difficult for runners. I spoke to students about how they're training, how it's been going for them these past few months. We'll have some more information for you here on TVC News Now at 11:30, where we talk about roads being closed, what time they'll reopen, and more information that you need to know for this weekend. And you too can check that course map by visiting knoxvillemarathon.com for more information as well. Back to you.
As the race for Knoxville City Council heats up, we take a closer look at the current councilwoman for the 6th District, Gwen McKenzie. For making history as the first African-American woman to serve as a vice mayor to her continued work as councilwoman, McKenzie's dedication to public service is truly inspiring. Our very own Caleb Colvin sat down with Mrs. McKenzie to discuss her vision and the legacy she hopes to leave behind.
One of Knoxville's dedicated leaders is Gwen McKenzie. Elected as city councilwoman for the 6th District in 2017 and re-elected in 2021, Mrs. McKenzie has been a passionate advocate for her community.
I believe in opportunity and access, and to give people hope that they can be more than what they've ever even seen before. Because a lot of times I meet people, or I'm inspiring, encouraging them, you can be the first homeowner in your family. You can be the first person in your family to buy a new car. You can be the first person in your family to go to college or to get some type of certificate and degree and to have a high wage paying job.
Councilwoman McKenzie's commitment to service and equality is deeply rooted in the values instilled in her by her late parents, Woodrow Z. Wilson, a civil rights activist, and Doris C. Wilson, a retired school teacher and community volunteer.
That's why I say it's in my DNA. I've always seen my family and my parents giving back. And so that's just what me and my brothers, we just did. That's how we grew up.
As someone who has dedicated her whole life to public service, Councilwoman McKenzie understands the power her seat holds. She has invaluable insight and advice for anyone looking to follow in her footsteps.
You genuinely want to use this seat and use your influence to improve people's lives, and to be approachable and to make people feel that you understand what they're going through, whether you do or not. Because there's some people that, sit in seats that are not from a lot of the communities that are disadvantaged or that have the greatest disparities.
As Councilwoman McKenzie finishes up her final term, I asked her about the kind of legacy she hopes to leave on her community and on the city of Knoxville.
When people think about me, they think about hope. When people think about me, they think about someone who genuinely cared, who genuinely gave love to the community and was always available to help anyone in need, and also challenge people to help themselves. Because my thing again is opportunity and access. I want the opportunity to be there and access for those who want it. Not for people who just want to sit back and complain and point fingers and say it's everybody else's fault. We don't have time for that. That's how generations get lost. But for people who want it, I got them, and I got their back.
In Knoxville, Caleb Colvin, Vol News.
Vice Mayor McKenzie's tenure is sure to ring throughout Knoxville for generations. The records keep pouring in for swim and dive as they took on the national championships this week. And baseball
We've been fortunate enough to have.
And baseball looks to stay hot heading into the national championship rematch.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours.
Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver. And we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
We are the Tennessee Volunteers. People who create connections, push boundaries, do the research that changes lives. We've got world-class academics and championship athletics. To be the best, you gotta learn from the best. And if you wanna lead, you gotta light the way. We've got what it takes. It takes a volunteer.
Welcome back. We've already told you about both March Madness tournaments, but our Lily Vans Allsburg is here to bring you a deeper dive into what else is happening on Rocky Top.
Thanks, Bella. From a look into the origins of women's basketball to the success on the diamond, there's so much to cover today. By now, you already know of the journeys of both men's and women's teams took in this year's March Madness tournament, but what you may not know is where that journey began for women's basketball. Our Luke Lamoury spoke to two women's basketball historians on the story of the game's extensive rise to popularity.
It's the 43rd Women's NCAA Tournament, and it doesn't come without its history. The tournament was instilled in 1982, almost 10 years after Title IX was founded. Women's basketball historian Susan Shackelford says the tournament's made progress.
I think it's come a long way. I think in the 90s it really hit a pretty high pitch and it became hard to get tickets.
In their book, Shattering the Glass, there are several of the great names in women's sports lining the pages. But you can't mention the Women's NCAA Tournament without mentioning one of the greatest coaches of all time, Pat Summitt.
Part of what really propelled that earlier peak was the success of Tennessee.
Summitt was a tough coach, and she was hard on her players. Some were able to work and learn from her, others weren't.
Where one day she ran all these suicide drills and there were 4 players and she said they went running in the last one and they ran up the steps of the gym and I never saw them again.
Summitt even coached and played at the same time. She played on the first ever women's Olympic basketball team.
And she had to work hard to be able to be in that Olympics because she had a bum knee. And she really got there with that knee and played, and that was the first time women played basketball in the Olympics.
Summitt worked for years to try to get more media coverage for women's basketball. But viewers finally had to turn their heads when another legendary coach emerged from UConn, Gino Auriemma. The fierce rivalry between the two contrasting personalities made for enthralling games.
But you know, she had a very different personality.
Yeah, she had kind of dignity and kind of like, you know, controlled dignity that Gino didn't have.
Players came and went, but the rivalry remained until Pat's retirement in 2012. Pat reigned at the top of all basketball coaches with 8 national championships. She not only made a name for herself, but also women in sports as a whole.
He said, okay, take care of what you need.
Wow.
And so Pat is part of that group, and there are a lot of really outstanding women that came from that group that filtered into basketball.
Pamela and Susan said that Pat is one of the many driving reasons behind the growth of women's basketball. For the Volunteer Channel, I'm Luke Lamoury.
Thanks, Luke. Over to the Diamond, the 26-2 baseballs have seen loads of success. On a hot win streak since their series against Alabama, the Vols trounced South Carolina in their weekend series 3-0. After that, they beat Tennessee Tech 7-1 in the midweek. Starting this afternoon, the Vols play a weekend series against Texas A&M, their opponent in last year's College World Series. The Vols are looking to extend their winning streak this weekend. As for the Lady Vols softball team, things have been very excited as of late. In a thrilling series against the Oklahoma Sooners and on Oklahoma's home turf, the Lady Vols came out on top and by a hair, winning Game 3 in a 5-3 nail-biter. After that, it was a quick win against Western Carolina that set the Lady Vols to 30-7. This weekend, the Lady Vols are hosting a weekend series against the 16th ranked Mississippi State at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium, hoping to improve their already electric season. Tennessee is coming off a successful trip to Washington for the NCAA Swim and Dive Championships. Tennessee swimming set of 4 NCAA records, 2 for senior Jordan Crooks in the 50 and 100 free, 2 more for the men's 200 and 400 freestyle relays. Vols finished 5th overall. For the women's championship in the 50 free final, Camille Spink recorded Tennessee's best finish since 2019, taking 4th overall. The last Lady Vol to record a top 5 spot in the event was 2-time Olympian program record holder Erica Brown, who won silver. Men's tennis took down Vanderbilt 4-3 at Godfrey Tennis Center. The number 16 Vols are on a roll as this marks their 7th consecutive conference win. Mitsui started off singles with a dominant 6-0 win. The rain forced the Vols to take it inside, but they continued the momentum and rallied for the win. Women's tennis is ranked number 6 in the country even after falling to number 2 Texas A&M, 4-1. The number 1 and number 2 doubles pairs dominated the Aggies 6-1 and 6-3. However, the singles could not carry the momentum. The Lady Vols face Florida today right here on Rocky Top. That's all for sports this week. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks, Lily. A new furry friend in Knoxville is turning heads. How this tiger is crucial to saving his species. And how the SEC is fighting hunger and having some fun along the way.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Be right there. Wait. Use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel. Then make sure it's cool.
Where'd you learn that?
SmokeyBear.com. Brushed up on some tips before we left. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
We are the Tennessee Volunteers. People who create connections, push boundaries, do the research that changes lives. We've got world-class academics and championship athletics. To be the best, you gotta learn from the best. And if you wanna lead, you gotta light the way. We've got what it takes. It takes a volunteer.
Students often find it hard to unwind throughout the semester, but once a month the McClung Museum hosts a yoga session that students can use to recenter. Knoxville Zoo has gained their newest furry friend. Meet Django, the 10-year-old Malaysian tiger whose mission is to save his species from extinction. Django is one of the most genetically valued Malayan tigers in the world. He was brought to Zoo Knoxville in hopes to reproduce with 11-year-old female tiger, Batara. With fewer than 200 Malayan tigers existing, Knoxville Zoo's Director of Animal Collections, Phil Kolkoff, touches on the impact of the survival plan programs and what it means for the future of the Malayan tiger species.
Factor when you have an animal that comes in here, you have to make sure that that their age is appropriate for this breeding, and you can try for a number of years. At some point, they're all living beings. They're going to get to an age that it's not responsible to try breeding with them. So this is just the next step in getting more baby Malayan tigers here on this planet.
Who knew there was such a rare tiger right in our backyard? Now that the weather is getting nicer, make sure to grab your friends and take a 13-minute drive to support Django in his mission to save his own kind. The annual SEC food fight is in full swing. Our Lauren Zaring tells us more.
Knowing how successful we've been in the SEC food fight year after year, it really shows how much Vols care about other Vols.
The SEC food fight isn't just a competition. It truly makes a difference.
SEC food fight is a friendly competition across campuses across the SEC.
The University of Tennessee has been involved in the food fight for 4 years now. Each SEC school competes to supply their own campus food pantry.
All the work that we're doing is really to go back to our Big Orange Pantry and to support Tennessee students.
UT is really hoping to secure a win this year.
Every year we get really, really close. Last year was our most successful year in the food fight, so we came in second to the University of Texas.
Even though giving back to our campus and students is the true victory.
We collect all the donations, so we have bins all around campus, sorority village, in the student union. Everything is going to be put out at the end of the day. It's all for the pantries. It's all to raise awareness for the pantries throughout the SEC.
The food fight brings schools in the SEC together to work towards one important cause.
So I think it's really cool for these schools to be able to do this together. It really helps us almost create a growing community, and it's able to possibly impact the future of the pantries.
Anyone can participate in the SEC food fight by donating to the designated bins on campus.
Fighting something like food insecurity on campus takes everyone.
In Knoxville, Lauren Zaring, Vol News.
The food fight will continue through April 17th. If you're interested in participating, you can donate items to the bins throughout campus or directly to the Dean's Office, Student Union Room 383. That's all we have for you today. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at TVC News Now to stay updated on news around campus.